What is up, you guys? Today I'm going to go over some of the buttons that I use every single day on these ultrasound machines. So let's just get started. So I apologize in advance for the white noise in the background. That's because this machine is on and the computer is going to look all flashy dashy because of my phone looking at the screen. So yeah, I apologize for that. But we're just going to go over stuff that I use every single day. Obviously this button here is the power button to turn it on. When it turns on, you're going to have this little screen that pops up. You have your keyboard here, which you're going to type everything with. And then you have M mode, which I use for fetal heart tones. We just want to make sure that we're not using Doppler here. We don't use power Doppler here in the hospital or even in our outpatient places. I do know that OB/GYN places kind of use power Doppler, but I've been taught don't use power Doppler on fetal heart tones. So yeah, I just use the M mode, which is motion, and then I'll use the Doppler mode, the pulse waves. That's basically to check for any Doppler flow, any velocity flow. We use that for vascular, arterial, checking for ovary flow, checking for testicular flow, and then we use the color flow. That's checking the color, making sure that there's blood flow, making sure that there is any movement. The color flow just shows directional flow versus the power Doppler flow that we also use, this PDI, that just shows flow in general. It doesn't tell us directional flow, but it just shows there's movement, motion, and flow. So we use that button, and then we use this button all the time. This is the beam mode. It kind of just like resets everything to normal. That's beam mode. It's also the gain. We turn the knob right and left to increase or decrease the gain. Now you can see here, as I turn right, the gain goes up higher. As I turn left, the gain goes down lower. And you can see it happening here. Up and down, up and down. So if you need something brighter, we make it go up, we increase the gain, and if we need it to be darker, we decrease the gain. So we use all these 4 buttons plus this little power Doppler button all the time. We use it every single day. We also use this time gain compensation, TGC, and we use this all the time. When you do this on your machine, you can tell, you know, going to the right makes it brighter, going to the left makes it darker. It's kind of like cleaning up the echoes, cleaning up artifacts. You use this to clean your images and make it better quality. So we definitely use this every single day. See, we can move it around, back and forth, la la la. We also use this button every single day. We steer the screen, we increase or decrease the depth, and we change the width of the actual screen itself. So we can cover more of the image if we'd like, or we can cover less of the image that we need. So we definitely use this button every single day. Steer, depth, and width. It has 3 functions. And it has another function on the top. It reverses the image. I don't know why you would need to do that, but see how the R is backwards? It'll reverse the image for you. And here, typically, your notch is always going to be facing the patient right. So that's why this is here. If you push that reverse button, it goes to that side. So you're reversing the image. And we don't want that. We want this on the right side because the notch of the probe will face the patient right. That's how this machine works. I know most machines work like that, but there are some that don't, which is totally weird. But trust me, notch is typically to the patient right. As long as I've been taught to the patient right, there is a machine at my outpatient place on the Canon, and the notch for some reason is to the left. So just do whatever they say. It's usually to patient right. We also use this left and right button. This is for the dual screen. Anything that's green, that means it's highlighted and it's in use. So I push left, and this line here shows me that this left photo is being currently used. Then when I click on the right, see how the line moves over? So left, and I'm gonna click on the right. And that's how I get my dual screen, like if I want the right ovary and then the left ovary. So that's a pretty cool button, and we definitely use that every single day because sometimes I'll do dual screen bladder pictures, and I'll do dual screen uterus pictures, dual screen kidney pictures, just to show 2 views. And it's really cool to use that to make your image quality that much better. These P2, P3, and P4, every machine that has this 3 sets of buttons, they all can be configured to however you want them to be used. So for us, P1 and P2 will take a photo. This freeze button will freeze and create a still image, and we use these all the time. P3 is just some random button, but P4 is the button that we push when we're done with the exam, and it will actually transfer the images to the PACS system on our computers. So for us, P4 is used. But for example, at my outpatient place, P3 is the button to take the photo, and P4 is just a random button that doesn't do anything. But here it does something. So each machine that you work at will do a different function. So just know what your place of work does, and you can use those accordingly. But yes, we use these every day as well. Another button that people don't really know is a button to use is this one. So this little button here, if I move it from this to this, it's the auto optimization button. So it will make the image much more clear and darker. I typically turn it on when I use vascular, and I typically use it when I need something to pop on the screen or to show really well, like a cyst or a fluid collection. So I'll push this because then I'll want like echoes to be out of the image, and it's very helpful for cleaning and optimizing your images. So definitely use this button to auto optimize, and when you push this button, it's not on. When you push it, it's on. Get familiar with your machines. I do not push this 3D, 4D button because I don't do 3D. So ignore that one unless you're usually doing like 3D OB or something like that, but I don't use that button. These buttons here, I do use these. They actually correlate differently to whatever is pushed on the machine. And to make boxes bigger or smaller, you use this one. But remember, at every job or place of work, every button does something differently. So you can look up on here actually, and it'll tell you what they do. So see this little trackball and the buttons? It looks exactly like this, trackball and the buttons. So this will tell you what is being used. And I always like to look at this to, know what I'm pushing. Because see, if I push this button, it changes, and then I can see what's happening, and I can position things and choose that. And it does all these little things. So just make sure you get familiar with your machine at your work. Then moving over, we always use this measure button. This is the calipers. So the calipers come on so you can measure, and I can move it around with a trackball. And what I'll do is push this button to select, and then I'll drag the trackball to measure. So we use that all the time. We're measuring lots of things. So we use that. We use the measure button. We use the zoom button to zoom in and out. We also use this body ellipse pattern, which helps us show what we're doing. We can choose on here. So say we're doing the belly. It'll show up on the screen, and this little green highlighter, that's the probe, and I can place it anywhere. Say I am measuring the lower part of the abdomen right here, and then this is me taking a picture in trans. If I want a sag picture, I'll move that up and down, and that's sag. So trans, sag. This just helps the doctors know where you're at in the body and scanning them. It's actually very, very helpful. So right now we're under the OB package, so it's showing all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna take that off, I'm gonna clear it, and turn it off. Okay. So yeah, we use this button. Not all the time, but we use it a lot. I'll definitely use it for breast or for some soft tissue or just weird cases where you kind of have to just show, where you're at specifically. We do have these other buttons here, but I don't typically use them. I may use the Logic View, which takes a very long picture, kind of like a panorama, but I don't typically use that every day. It's possible to be used on really large like fluid collections. The one thing it's used on a lot, especially, is for baby spines, just to see the spine in long, you can use this logic view to make a really pretty picture of the spine. So as you can see, we do use like literally every single button in here. So every button has a function and you're gonna definitely use it. So make sure you're familiar with your machine, and if you need to, come in early to learn and make sure you know what buttons you're gonna use. So definitely we use this whole entire keyboard here and all these little buttons, but I'm gonna show you some of the things up here that we use all the time. Now if you're pushing things on here or here, they're gonna change differently to whatever button and function that you are using. For example, everything changes on here according to what I'm pushing. So the power Doppler settings comes on. If I push color settings come on. So here's that, color flow, pulse wave, E mode. So you can go between each one of these even though you have the settings on right now. So things that I'll use on here is like the color flow. I will increase the gain or decrease the gain. And on here, sometimes for the ovaries, I'll push the ovary button, which makes it more sensitive and you can see flow much better. Sometimes you're gonna push the invert button, but you don't really need to touch that unless need be. But really on the screen, what you need to really focus on is changing your probe and your settings. So if I'm going to use the curve probe or the 15 probe or the 9 linear or the TVAG probe, basically I need to make sure I'm picking the correct one, correct setting, and the correct preset. So if I want to say, let's say I want to do testicles, I want to use the ML615, and this stands for abdomen, OB, GYN, small parts, and peds. So I'll click on scrotal. So typically for the 15 small parts, I'll pick scrotal and it changes the settings here. Now a button that I use all the time is frequency. This frequency button, we change it all the time. Also the focus position and the numbers, we change it all the time. This is what you're going to use to optimize your photos and make them look much better. Even your dynamic range. Play with everything. Dynamic range, frequency, focus number, focus position. You want to make sure you move the baseline, edit the volume, use the scale, increase the scale or decrease the scale. You want to use your angle correct. We use these all the time. So using your angle correct, especially when you're doing arteries, you want to make sure it's going the correct way. Using that with the color box, making sure that the color box is going and steering the right direction. So people think we just take the picture and just, the machine does everything. No, us as the ultrasound technologist has to use every single one of these buttons to make the image look pretty for the doctor. We also have to adjust things accordingly, especially if the patient has so much gas or if a patient has a large body habitus. Sound waves can only travel so fast, so really we change the frequency a lot. You do have these preset settings, so like for thyroid, abdomen, OB, you'll have all these settings, but you still need to focus on changing your frequency, changing your dynamic range, moving this focus, moving it around. This is what you want to focus. You want to make sure your organ or your target image is going to be right in the middle. Yeah, it's a lot, but in lab you will be taught how to use the machine, how to use all this. And once you know how to use one machine, you should pretty much know how to use all of them. They all have the same buttons and the same functions. It's just some of them are different ways of how to get to them or different ways of how it works. Sometimes the frequency button won't be right here. Sometimes the frequency button will be over here, or sometimes this button will be over here on this part. So just get used to the machine that you are practicing and learning on, and then when you get a new machine, practice on that one and think about, how did I do it on the other machine? Oh, okay, that's what I did. So it's a lot. You just need practice, you need time. Don't get frustrated because all of the buttons are on every single machine. You just have to get used to it. And yeah, I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for sitting through it and listening. We definitely use every single button on the machines every single day. So don't be overwhelmed. If you need help, ask your coworkers, ask your teacher. Don't be afraid to ask, because odds are the button is there, it's somewhere. You just have to figure out where to find it. Alright, you guys, have a good day and happy scanning. Bye, see you in the next video, and don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Woohoo! Bye.